Hello everyone, I'm Helbram from the Dyspraxia System, and today I want to talk about the Korean drama Kill Me, Heal Me, and how they represent DID in there. I apologize in case I mispronounce any of the names. We never learned any Korean, so I apologize in advance. First of all, I'll give a quick summary of what the drama is about, and then I'll get into whether or not I think they did it right. So the premise is that there is a main character, Cha Do-hyun, and he is the heir to a big company, so he's pretty rich. His whole family is rich, and he has DID. He doesn't know why. He lost a whole year of memories, and he used to live in America, but one of his authors decided that they had to go back to Korea and start working at their family company. And back in Korea, he meets psychiatrist around his age called Jin, and there's a bit of drama, but she ends up being his psychiatrist full-time. She lives with him, goes to work with him as his secretary, and she is supposed to make sure that the other authors either don't front or don't mess anything up while at the front, so that no one finds out that he has DID. And eventually she'll also help him recover his year of lost memories and how to go from there. And she doesn't have any experience with this, and she used to work at the hospital, and the person who she worked under was the psychiatrist who helped the system back in America, so he knows a bit about every author and how they work and how DID works. So yeah, that's basically the premise, and this drama is 20 episodes long, and each episode is an hour long. Now, I will say that I find it pretty good representation, but it is dramatized a little. Definitely in the beginning when there's a switch, it's quite dramatic, long over switch. The longer you keep watching, the lesser dramatized the switches will be. Sometimes they are still quite over, but other times not at all. So yeah, I mean, switches can be overt and long, but I think they rarely look like the way they sometimes look in the drama, especially specifically we have never had switches that look like the very over dramatized switches in the drama. But I mean, it's a drama, so it makes sense it would be a bit more dramatized. Then the authors themselves, I think he has 9 different authors. They are all quite overt, quite different in how they act. They all have different names as well. I know they all have a different gender. I'm not sure about sexuality, because we only really see 3 authors go after someone. One is a female author who does go after a guy. even kisses a guy at one point without the guy actually kind of wanting that. But that female alter doesn't care that she is in a male body. She does not care. She will just full on act like a girl and use the honorifics that girls use. And then the other two alters are both men, and they both go after the same girl. So I guess sexuality is also different for them, but it's more like a low-key thing. It's not really talked that much about. Just like, oh, alright, she's a girl who goes after guys. Makes sense. So yeah, they are very overt system, and there are overt systems like them probably, but it shouldn't be made as like the typical way that DID represents. Because if you just think about it for like a little bit, you can easily figure out that something's up and that he might have DID. Some even figured it out. The psychiatrists figured it out on their own after just like 2-3 days with him. Yeah, so they're more overt than you typically see from systems. They all have their different style of clothes. They all have their own accents. They have their own likes and dislikes. You can set their own name, gender, age. And I'm not saying that is wrong. It is a thing that can happen in systems. I mean, we all have different names, but we don't all know our gender and sexuality. And we definitely don't change our outfits every time we switch, or our hair or our makeup. We don't do that. But there could be systems out there that do. Obviously, we don't know every system, but I know the majority of systems is more covert than overt. But I mean, it's not a bad thing necessarily. And the people around the system do all treat every alter respectfully and equally. So that's nice. They do well. In the beginning, the girl psychiatrist does still, well, both psychiatrists actually, all of them kind of treat the host of the system as like the real alter, the core. And in the beginning, because of that, the girl also treats the other alters not like their own person, but like just a version of the host. Which one of the alters, he's kind of like a protector persecutor type. I'm not sure if he's protector or persecutor. I'm not fully sure of that. But he makes a big deal of it and was like, no, I'm my own person. I don't care about the host. Stop using his name. Like, see me as me. And then she does do that eventually, which is really good. And she ends up getting all of them a present at some point too. So she does come around and do that. But yeah, they all still treat the host as the original real alter, which is like, that's not how this works. That's not at all how this works. Some systems do say that they have a core, but generally it's accepted and like seen as there being no core or original alter. Speaking of that, they do use the term personalities instead of alter, but that might also just be because that's easier to use and people will know what you mean if you say personality instead of alter. It's not something I really mind that much. I mean, they do use the term DID instead of MPD. Both get used, but typically multiple personality disorder only gets used by the people that don't really know what DID is, because the psychiatrist, the system, and the person, like there's his secretary, who's been with him throughout this whole journey, do use the term DID. It's just the other people that end up finding out usually use multiple personality disorder. But it is definitely made clear in the drama that it's now called DID. And also that's different from schizophrenia and stuff. So it's nice they generally use the right terms. At some point, they do also talk about co-consciousness. And this is presented in a way that the host sees another alter as like a kind of hallucination, and they can talk to each other. And the older psychiatrist treats this as a bad thing and says that if they're co-conscious, one of the alters might take over completely and push down the host so much that he basically doesn't exist. And that's not at all what co-consciousness is. When you're co-conscious, both the alters are at the front and they both have at least somewhat control. It varies from if they're both equally in charge or if one is more in charge than the other. But it's not that you can use it to push down an alter forever. That's not how that works. You can't just force another alter to go dormant through co-consciousness. No. I think at one point they do say that co-consciousness isn't that bad, but generally they make it out as a bad thing. So that's not nice. They do make sure to say that you need to find your memories and work through them before you can fuse. And I think the way they go about recovering the memory is also done quite respectfully. We haven't really done anything like that before, so we don't know if that is how it would actually work. But the authors work together to let the host know what those memories are, and then through that you can also you also get to know when which alter was created and kind of why. I don't know if typically systems can pinpoint it to exactly the moment an alter was created and exactly why they were created. We have it with some that we have an idea, but not the exact moment typically. But then again, maybe if you recovered memories that you'll find out, but I don't think typically that you can pinpoint exactly when an author was formed, just more of a general idea of when. And then quick spoilers for the ending. They end up fusing all together into one, but the way they do that is basically the other authors just kind of disappear when they're no longer needed, and it doesn't seem like they fuse, they just disappear, and it doesn't seem like the host got the memories of the other authors apart from then the trauma memories, but like the amnesia barriers never get broken down, and it's just still full blackout amnesia, with a few fusions. He had to be told that the author was no longer around and fused. So yeah, that is, I mean, they talk about fusion pretty respectfully, but I would imagine that you first need to break down the amnesia barriers a bit, and then if you fuse, you also get the memories of the author you fused with, and it's not like those memories are just gone and lost. It's not what I would think fusion is like. I mean, maybe in the idea it could be like that, but I highly doubt it. But yeah, I think overall, it's pretty well done. There is, like I said, minor misinformation, and a bit over dramatized, but it's a drama, so that's to be expected. But overall, it's done really respectfully, and it's one of the best representations I've seen so far. So if you're interested in that, I would highly recommend watching it. Do you have to say that the trauma he went through has to do with domestic abuse, and there are also moments that suicide is talked about, and there even an almost attempt. So if that kind of stuff triggers you, maybe don't watch it. But overall, it's done really respectfully. So I would recommend it. Yeah. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you have any questions or whatever, leave them down below in the comments. If you want to follow us on social media, it's in the description. And if you want to see more of our videos, make sure to subscribe and ring the bell to get notified when we upload our next video. We upload every Wednesday, and we'll see y'all next week. Bye!